Little known stat that very few people will bring up this weekend. Scotland have never beaten the All Blacks, but they have drawn with them twice.
Hopefully that stat draws to a close this weekend. I mean, I say that. It would be nice, wouldn't it? It would be great to
Typical All
see.
Black hating squid rugby.
Yeah, I know. But no, it would be nice to see. We always like to see an upset here.
Yep.
And obviously, there have been so many games that we've witnessed in the sort of last 10, 15 years.
Yep, carry on talking.
Where Scotland have pushed them close. I guess most infamously the one where, if you remember Stuart Hogg, him streaking down the wing and Beauden Barrett managing to get a last-ditch tackle on him to win the game for the All Blacks.
Yeah.
And there have been a few occasions like that where we've had really good encounters between these, but Scotland never quite getting over the line.
Yeah. If you look at the last few years, actually they've been pretty close. Going back to about 2017, it's the last 8 years, these games have been fairly close. Like, all of them have been 2 scores. The last time they played, it blurred just beyond a score late on, but like the game was fairly competitive. You've had a couple of the Scottish comebacks, as they leading to that Stuart Hogg break in the last minute, but then, Beauden Barrett catches him, much as the police went on to do, and leads to that situation being blown. And it just it's been quite a frustrating one for Scotland, I think, because they've been given a lot of reason to hope, but very little actual, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of days where you go, today could be the day. But very few are today is the day, whether it turns out to be true or not.
That's it. The thing that most gives me hope of Scotland winning this game is the team sheet.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I would have said that of the last 7 or 8 times that these two have played against each other, is you look at the Scottish teams, because they do have, on paper, such an incredible team. They've got so many, top-end international players in there, the likes of Blair Kinghorn, Sione Tuipulotu, obviously Finn Russell. Obviously, I mean, all of these just coming off the back of Lions tour, Ben White as well. That there's so many of those, particularly in the back line. But then you also look at, they have a really well-bolstered pack that I'm really liking the axis of Grant Gilchrist in the second row alongside Scott Cummings, a Lion, and Gregor Brown, who saw the back end of the Lions tour.
Yeah, your favourite player. So I think speaking of Lions, right, this happens every tour, where a player will go on a Lions tour, then come back and go up a gear and just be like, I'm now a Lion, I'm going to play with the kind of presence and the motivation and the kind of fortitude that you expect of a Lion, right? Where previously they were a good player, they then kind of go up a gear for it. Gregor Brown has been the biggest example of that from this post-Lions period so far. Obviously, only a few rounds into the domestic season, a lot of those players have been rested over the last few months. Jack Morgan's played half an hour. There's a bunch of the Lions who've only played a game or so. Leinster's Lions have been playing in a struggling team, so it's more difficult for them to really, stake a claim for this. But for me, Gregor Brown has gone up massively, and he was announced on the Lions tour. He came out to many people going, who's he? Or, is he Glasgow, right? Kind of was the reaction from a lot of people. And he had a very good Six Nations leading into that, a very good run of form going into that Glasgow and everything. And then, obviously was your favourite player of all time. Had kind of been sneaking around Scotland's squad for a little bit, but has been phenomenal for Glasgow this season.
Yeah.
Playing at either 6 or lock. Most of his rugby has been at 6. Had a brilliant game against the Dragons, and has continued where he was player of the match, scored a great try, gave a great assist, and has continued either side of that to just be brilliant. He's incredibly athletic. I really like him developing as an edge forward, which is typically not the role he was playing before, but he's being used more and more that, and it's kind of added a new dimension to his game a little bit, in that he's popping up in those wide channels, and he's incredibly rangy and explosive. And it reminds me a little bit of Tyke Byrne. He's gone from feeling like quite a nuts and bolts second row, who's a very good line-out option, gets for a lot of work, and quietly has a bit of pace when you see him in the loose, a bit like Scott Cummings himself.
Yeah.
To suddenly a brilliant edge forward, to a brilliant all-rounder, quick, second row /6. And I just think he's gone up gears, and I'm really excited by him getting this opportunity. It's the selection I really hope to see, because it is the form selection. He is maybe the form player in Scotland.
He's having a lot of fun this season, isn't he?
Yeah.
Very clearly.
With Jamie Dobie, I suppose, is the other.
Yeah. As you say, he's come back from that Lions tour and he's just been bouncing, just clearly loving playing his rugby at the moment. And as you say, he's a brilliant carrier. He's just technically superb around the park, hits all of his breakdowns. I like your Tyke Byrne comparison, because
It's not a comparison I would have made a year ago.
No, but it's not in the same way of like, oh, he steals balls and does all these flashy
Yeah.
things in the same way Tyke Byrne does, has a massive left boot. Like, it's not any of that. It's the fact that Tyke Byrne middle forward and Tyke Byrne edge forward are two
Yes.
different players,
Yeah.
but both equally effective because his skill set is just so well-rounded. And that, I think, is the kind of, I don't know, that's the angle that Gregor Brown's coming for. And having just, I guess, played alongside Tyke Byrne on that Lions tour, there is a chance that he's learned a new approach to the game and picked it up off the likes of him and Mauro Itoje. And yeah, I just think that's a super exciting selection.
He couldn't necessarily do these things a year ago, but like he wasn't doing it to the same degree.
Yeah.
And he's been, as I said, maybe the form player in.
I'd imagine he will now be doing those things that he did do before at club level at Test standard now.
Yeah. And there is one other big change in the Scotland team, which is on the wing, Duhan van der Merwe is not present.
Yeah.
And there's been some talk around this. There was suggestion in one paper that he's injured. No one seems to have heard us have any confirmation of this. It looks like it's just a selection.
Yeah.
It's just a decision made by Gregor Townsend that we want instead Kyle Steyn on the wing. And I like this because Kyle Steyn is one of the best kick-chasing wingers in Europe.
Yeah, 100%. And clearly they're favouring Darcy Graham to take the top spot for Scotland's top try scorer. But no, Kyle Steyn, I really, really rate him. Aerially, he's fantastic. So good under the high ball, but also has a good kicking game himself. When he's finds himself in a little bit of room where he can put boot on ball, he's got a really good selection of kicks on him. And as you say, he gets after every kick, he always completes that first tackle. You never see him missing one. You know, he always hunts as much ground as he can. And the thing is, obviously, if you're to compare the two of them ball in hand, you know, Kyle Steyn's here, he's very, very good, but Duhan's up here. But if you flip that onto defensive game and kick chase and everything, you can put them pretty much similar like that in terms of the gap between them. Now, obviously, having ball in hand will get you 5 points. However, what Kyle Steyn brings you, it might be that they're leading into some tactics that are worth more than 5 points.
We talked about this in January. We did that video on the kick chase blocking rule changes, right? Then Kyle Steyn had an injury during the Six Nations and that wasn't available. And I kind of raised the point, right, of is it more valuable with the no blocking in place, as has been the case for the last year, to have someone who can win you 20-metre chunks of charity time after time after time and be incredibly reliable in doing that, especially when you throw in how good a box kicker Ben White is, and he's thrown straight back in despite Jamie Dobie being in such good form and being so impressive last week against the USA. White comes back in because he is an exceptional box kicker and that is his primary attribute, I think. And then you bring in the best box kick chaser you have as well. And it feels clear that Townsend has a very clear strategy of he's going, okay, Duhan might have one moment in a game where things break for him and he scores a bullshit length of field try. If it's against England, he might have 4 of those, but against New Zealand, he might only get the one chance.
I enjoyed Glove's thing saying that the All Blacks are playing in white this week, so it's a chance to tell Duhan that he's playing against England, so he can score 4 tries.
Do you think, if they're expecting this game to be tight, and I think they're hoping for that, and the pack they've selected probably leans towards that, right? Like extra line-out options, everything Gregor Brown brings, we didn't mention, like... You know, you can really target the line-out, which is an area they can maybe go after them after the... You know, New Zealand got on top of Ireland's line-out, but I think there is a chance to get after them, as we've seen over the course of the rest of the year, that you can really get in at their line-out more generally. And that's a real chance to do that. You target them a set piece, you try and keep the game tight, and you box-kick the lever off it. And in doing so, you give New Zealand no chance to counter-attack, which... Ireland kicked long, and that didn't necessarily open up chances for the Will Jordans of the world to run it back, but it opened up lots of chances for Beauden Barrett to boot the ball into the backfield, and even if he wasn't able to hit 50-22, to push them back. And time on time, we talked about this in our video on Ireland Gene that went on the main channel yesterday, as you're watching this. Unless you're watching it like months in the future when the game's been decided, in which case, fair enough. Thank you.
No spoilers in this, so you're all good.
But it opens up chance for Beauden Barrett in particular, who is starting at 10, to pin you back and to execute the kicking game. And that's the thing you'd worry about rather than the counter-attack, right, if all black teams are past. And they don't want that. You don't want to run the risk of either of those things. And the easier way to do that is by hanging in the air. And Leroy Carter, I really wrote on the high ball. He's not the tallest, though. So there's a chance to get over the top of him.
That is such a good battle, Carter against Steyn. As you say, Carter is also really good on the kick chase. And organising backfield, he seems to already have down in his first 5 caps.
And Caleb Clark he's night and day better than he was 2 years ago under the high ball and positionally, but there still is a chance to get under him and get around him and get on top of him.
Yeah.
And so there is a real, if there is a weakness in the All Blacks game, it maybe is that. It maybe is on that kick receipt. And it also limits them from using their biggest strengths. So I understand why Gregor Townsend has gone, this is our strategy. We're going to play lots of high ball. I reckon we'll probably see Finn Russell have some crossfield bombs as well to go alongside and really, really target those touch lines and target that kick chase. At the same time, the team selection has told the All Blacks 24 hours out from kickoff or 40 hours out from kickoff what they're going to do.
Yeah. Bear in mind as well, in the Six Nations, they used Jamie Ritchie to go on kick chase to slap the ball back to try and get Darcy Graham and Dylan van der Merwe, great broken field runners, scraps to play off. When they're on the opposite wing, i.e. Caleb Clark's wing, the opposite wing to where Kyle Steyn is, i.e. Darcy's wing, they may use Gregor Brown in that as their tall number 6, who is rangy and athletic and get off the floor. So that's something I wonder about. They may even just bring across Kyle Steyn and get him to go after him. But the other side of this, obviously they don't kick as long as Ireland do, as you mentioned. They kick a lot more contestably. Finn Russell likes to kick long, but particularly off 9.
But I think that's calmed down over the last year.
I agree.
We've seen less and less of it over the last 12 months.
Yeah, I agree. And particularly when he's been playing at Bath, they quite like to go contestably and go in the air because they've got a tall set of wingers or a big set of wingers in Singer and Muir that they like to get under the ball. But yeah, with that, if they do end up losing kick battles, you don't want to give Caleb Clark room to run in because he's unreal on the counter-attack. His acceleration and power is fantastic. And that's what's really got him to nail down that 11 jersey for the All Blacks this year.
And his defensive positioning's increased like tenfold.
Yeah. Him and Will Jordan in that back 3 together. And as we mentioned, Leroy Carter, who is brilliant at the sort of...
I really rate Leroy Carter.
Yeah.
I really rate him.
Yeah. And of course, one of the other big changes, I guess, in the All Blacks backline is they have brought in Lester Fainga'anuku into the 13 jersey and slid in Quintu Paiwan. This is obviously an enforced change in a way with Geordie Barrett out, but Fainga'anuku more than earned his place last week, runs incredibly hard. Defensively, didn't really make any errors in that game.
One of the best games of his All Black career, if not the best.
Yeah, I think probably is.
Was really good in that 13 channel. Looked like a bit of a revelation there, where obviously he's played there plenty in the past. And, it's like, he's spelled it too long, played there plenty. But has been mostly used by the All Blacks as a winger.
Yeah.
Because he's a very good winger.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm intrigued by him. Is he trying to do a Rieko Ioane and get round the curse? Notice that Rieko Ioane, like you pointed it out, he's 28, he's absent in this team, he's going to Leinster.
It happens to all of them.
Are we looking at him being surveyed?
Yeah.
We'll find out. Fainga'anuku's got a couple more years left. Is he looking to use the Ioane playbook and get round it by playing over position? I don't know. But he looked really good there.
Yeah.
And he's got that extra bit of pace as well that I really like from that channel.
He's obviously opposite Rory Hutchison of Northampton, playing at 13 for Scotland. I love watching Rory Hutchison play. He has been on fire for Northampton the last couple of years. He has a really good skill set, great kicking game on him as well. Again, the little short chips in behind, I wonder if that's something Scotland are going to look to utilise because they've got so many little kicking threats in that back line. Sione, as we previously mentioned, Tuipulotu. So that's an interesting part of it. He's got a great offload on him as well, Rory Hutchison. Again, a really exciting player to watch. The one downside is he's just not Hugh Jones.
Yeah.
And no matter who Scotland pick in that 13 channel, I can't help but look at it and go, oh, he's not Hugh Jones, though. Off the back of, obviously, Jones had a brilliant Lions tour and test series himself. So, yeah, that's a bit of a tough one. I would back Fainga'anuku for pace out of those two. But also, Hutchison's no slouch, man. Yeah. That would be a good battle in the centres.
Yeah, I think Fainga'anuku's comfortably faster than Roy Hutchinson. But the interesting thing is we haven't talked that much about the All Blacks. And I think it's worth bringing up because the interesting thing about this Kiwi team under Razor Robertson, right, is we all expect them to be the Crusaders. And instead, I think they've been a bit more of a hodgepodge and they've been quite hard to pin down what they are and they've gone back and forth. And I think we've seen, there's two ways of looking at this, right? One is they don't know who they are. The other is Razor is working out game plan for game plan and he's going to get them all kind of together and able to flip between them and see who they are. But I think the one thing that's consistent throughout all of them is the All Blacks, I think now are, and it's probably something we can never be able to say before, they're a kicking team.
Yeah.
Their best attribute is their kicking.
Yes. 100%.
And they're built around their kicking game, which is exceptional. And Roy Gard is a brilliant box kicker. Beauden Barrett is maybe, I said it, yesterday, but like, Beauden Barrett is probably the best, kicking 10 in the world at the minute. And again, they have a range of options at fullback who can lever the ball.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting thing because we've never seen that before from them. They've always had a strong kicking game, but it's often been used to bring out their attack or even bring out their forwards for passages, of time. But this is now a team who are New Zealand, typical kicking team, but are incredibly varied. It's not like they're like, oh, they love to kick long because they want to feed their attack. It's like France do, for instance, or they love to kick short because they want to feed their forward and create scrum opportunities, like South Africa have over the last few years. They're just incredibly varied. Yeah. And I think this is a game that will be won by the kicking battle, and on two fronts, right? One is, I feel like there will be a try or two created from kicking and from kick exchange. I'm not talking necessarily as directly as, England regathering in the air and running it in under the post last week, but whether it is you kick loosely, you kick long, the opposition kick loosely back, and you then get a chance to launch a counter-attack that takes 2 phases to break down.
Or you score off the line out if they kick it into touch.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's often what it is from Beauden Barrett, because he likes to chew off every last drop. It often is the case because the All Blacks are so good off set piece. We mentioned yesterday that Ireland are a great team in the 22, New Zealand are a great team in the opposition half. Yeah. And so Beauden Barrett will often, when he's just inside the opposition half, he will just put in one of those cheeky little grubbers in behind that lands sort of 5 metres from the touchline. And because Caleb Clark's so fast, because Leroy Carter's so fast, or whoever they pick on the wings, that get after it, the opposition usually will just have to slice it into touch because they've not got an angle to work off, and they can't really keep it in play because they risk opening up Will Jordan there, and they will then score off the strike from a line out.
It's the intriguing thing. It's the other side of this, I think, is Scotland have picked a team that, Finn Russell aside, is pretty much set up to play one set tactic, kicking wise, right? Which is bombs, get under them, target the wingers, make 15, 20 metres at a time. Maybe you can push it 30 every now and again and just advance downfield, get in the option 22, and then do whatever from there. New Zealand have a team that can play the kicking game a number of ways. And the question is going to be, can Scotland respond to that well enough? Because they're not going to win every battle in the air, right? They're going to give New Zealand some chances to launch their own kicking game.
Yeah.
And if, say, for example, right, New Zealand opt to play a longer kicking game, Scotland hang it, they regather it around just inside their own half, they then go for another box kick shortly afterwards because that's the way they're set up to play after they realise nothing's on. New Zealand regather that, they then kick back down to 22, right? Yeah. Like, you put them, it's so much easier if you're playing the way New Zealand have been playing over the last couple of years, or last couple of months rather, in terms of their kicking game, to reset and to win that battle than it is the way Scotland is doing it, or look set up to do it. You've got to vary it a bit more than necessarily this team is. I'm not saying it's set up to only play one way, right?
No, I know what you mean.
Like, if Scotland are going to win this game, they need to, yes, have that primary tactic, which I think can work and will target a weakness, right? It won't work 100% of the time. So you need to have more variety to it. And this isn't to say they can't do it. It's to say, like, the most important thing is that they look for that variety and they look to trust more than just Finn Russell to be putting long-range kicks in.
That's where Blair Kinghorn comes into this.
Kinghorn, Roy Hutchinson, both great kickers. You need them singing long bombs behind, and you need them taking a lot themselves. So it isn't all on Finn Russell to run everything in the kicking game that isn't that one core tactic.
Yeah, 100%. Kinghorn plays such a massive part in this because he is one of the best backfield managers, certainly in Europe, if not the world. And you can't switch off against Beauden Barrett because he will always find space either in your front line or your backfield. Yeah. And as we mentioned yesterday, he loves to do kicks that where the ball bounce. And
that's the other side of Kyle Steyn as well.
Yeah.
He is more likely to cover those. He doesn't turn like Duan does, like an oil tanker a bit.
Yeah.
He is
the amount of space that was found behind Duan on the Lions tour was ridiculous. Every club team was doing it and finding so much real estate back there. Whereas, as you say, with Kyle Steyn, it's a slightly tighter backfield there, you'd imagine. Yeah. And potentially that will allow Darcy Graham to just roam and do what he wants and hope that he can find gaps somewhere, that he can sneak through. So, yeah, it's a really exciting one. And I guess the one other thing from Scotland's perspective that I want to talk about is they've gone for double carrying threats in the back row with both Jack Dempsey and Matt Fagerson. Yeah. Fagerson playing at 7. He, again, he's had a brilliant 2025. And they've also gone with Josh Bayliss on the bench. So they have got big, fast offloading and also just quick carries there. Yeah. And clearly that's something that they want game breakers, who can really go after the All Blacks. So, yeah, I think Greg has really rolled the dice here.
That's it, isn't it? That's the interesting addition is Scotland clearly set up to play very little rugby in their own 22, or their own half, rather. But once they get into the opposition half, it is all big carriers. Like Darcy Ray as well is like a very solid carrier, and obviously Xander Fagerson's got a niggling injury, so likely wasn't fit here. But you have people who will carry a lot of ball and make that 1 yard more than you're expecting, which allows Finn to open up a little bit. And it feels like the forward pack has almost been selected. It's almost like the other way around, right? Like they want the backs to get you in position so the forwards can then do the heavy
Yeah,
work and score
yeah,
the points.
yeah. I get that, especially when you look at the All Blacks front five.
Yeah.
Because front row in particular, actually, because I would look at that, as you said, you mentioned Darcy Ray there, who's brilliant around the park, not quite as well tested at scrum time as
Yeah,
the
not
All
bad
Blacks
scrummage
front
by
row.
any stretch.
No, not at all. But you would imagine that the All Blacks will be licking their lips a little bit and going, put us in good positions, kick us into good positions so we can try and win scrum penalties and get cheap 3-pointers, cheap 5-metre line-outs where we can, put ourselves in a situation where we're likely to score. So, yeah, I think that scrum is an area that the All Blacks will really target after the power game got them to W last week in Chicago.
Can I throw one question out to you?
Go on.
I think in terms of how Scotland will play this. Hypothetical situation, right? We are 4 minutes into the game. Scotland do a great kick. They get a penalty just outside the All Blacks 22. Let's say 25 metres out. And it's halfway between the touchline and the posts. Do you take the shot at goal?
How long in do you say?
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes, I know what you're going to say. You're going to disagree with me on this. 5 minutes in, I'd probably take the points. But I think that can't be a policy all day long because you're not going to beat the All Blacks just by going for 3-pointers.
I agree with you, though. No, I think the game has swung so massively in every direction that at the minute everyone is going for the corner all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, actually, there's something smart to be said for going for 3 points because the All Blacks will probably kick for the corner all day.
Yeah.
Because it's the meta at the minute. Everyone goes for the corner.
There will be a point where
you probably want to be taking the points. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to go for the corner.
Yeah.
That will happen at
Yeah.
some point in the game.
There'll be a moment of momentum. Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be 5 minutes in.
No.
Because even if you do score from that, it takes you dropping one ball and the All Blacks powering over to reverse all of your hard work,
I've got a bullshit theory as well, right?
Go on, hit me.
This game is like a 3 p.m. kickoff, right? So every game where it's been within 2 scores between New Zealand and Scotland over the last 35 years, going back to the 1991 third place playoff, has kicked off when it's been dark at 5:30 or later.
Interesting.
Right? Where every game that's kicked off at 3 o'clock or earlier, there's been like a daytime match, the All Blacks have won by 3 scores or more.
I back your bullshit theory.
I've got no reason to believe this will happen again, but I just had this thought because when you think about the All Blacks and Scotland having a tight game, you always think it's nighttime at Murrayfield, don't you?
Yeah.
And this game's in the daytime.
So basically, everything positive was said about Scotland is just completely irrelevant now because it's a 3 p.m. kickoff, and that overrules everything.